I am the final presenter and we are pretty well, it's on 10:30 so we can get started. I am going to be playing, I know you guys have seen so much with the embossing folders, and I've actually got another embossing folder technique to show you as well. So you'll have to go through all your embossing folders this week and pull them all out and start playing with them. So it's all fun, and it's great to have something different to play with as well, rather than just, you know, the usual emboss and stick it on your card. So this will be fun, and hopefully you will enjoy this one. I think it's great because I've only using 2 colors of cardstock, and that's black and white, but I'm able to produce such a fun, bold, colored card as well. So I think that I think I might just swing around and get started, and because I'm doing some ink blending and I really like to get my colors intense, which takes a little bit of time. So let's swing around and we'll get started. So I think I'm going to put my hand over this side this time, just so that you don't all feel ill, and switch around again. There we go. So I will show you the card first. Which is going to be this one here. I'll just bring my camera a little bit closer to me. So we're going to be making this card here, and so we need the embossing folders, but we don't actually need the die cutting machine or embossing machine to do this technique. It's a really, really fun one. So we'll get started on that. I am using the time-worn type folder for this one. Okay, so I'll just pop that aside, bring in my little grid paper. Now I'm just using basic white, and I'm using, let me think about it for a second, 3 3/4 and 4 3/4. Okay, and the colors that I'm going to be using, yeah, I love intense colors, so it's really bold. So I'm using Poppy Parade, and I'm also using Crushed Curry. So when I ink blend, I've got an ink blend. Now I start from the side. I work from the side, so I'm sort of on a weird angle when I work. As you can see, I've used these colors quite a lot. I love them. I find that the Poppy Parade is really intense in color. So just pick up your color with your blending brush, and starting from this one is actually going to be the top of my card, and I work my way, and I actually swap things around, so you'll see what I do. So just laying down my color, and like I said, I like a lot of color, so I'm taking it to just over halfway and I get pretty inky as well. And I'm going to try and talk a little bit louder because I think I may have been too soft, and I also realized that I had the volume down on my phone, so I don't know whether that makes a difference or not, but I'm going to try and pop that up, maybe sit a little bit closer to my work area as well. So just laying down this first color, I tend to go backwards and forwards, a little bit in circles, just so that I've got that nice even, see how it's a bit blotchy in the middle? I like it to all be quite even. So put down that color, it's fairly intense, fairly heavy. You can try this technique with if you want to go softer, you can. Oh, it makes me breathless. How's this for a bit of a workout this morning? Okay, and then, just pop that out the way. Then I swing around and come in with my Crushed Curry on the bottom. So again, just picking up that colour and start from the bend. I want to have this in a new clean area, because sometimes it'll pick up, because the ink is quite heavy, it's quite wet on the scrap, and sometimes it'll pick up the red. So try and do that in a cleaner area. And that's why I turn my whole grid paper around, not just the card on top. So I'm keeping the 2 colours fairly separate to start with. Yeah, I'll try and talk a little bit louder. With my other phone, I had a microphone, but my other phone had a phone jack as well, whereas these new phones don't have phone jacks, so it's a little bit tricky. Okay, turning around again. This is where I go backwards and forwards quite a bit as well. So now I'll just pick up a little bit more colour and start blending these two areas together. So I go lightish to start with because I've gone really, really heavy, and then I can overlap a little bit of that crushed curry, and then I swing around. Hopefully I won't get you too dizzy, and then come back over that line again, and it's going to turn into a really nice orangey blend between the two. And also you'll get inky fingers, so try and hold on right at the tips. Sometimes you don't even have to put more ink on. When you get to the blending stage, I don't usually ink up my brush. I just sort of blend between the two. I might ink up the lighter one, try and get a little bit of orange going on in between. Okay, and then I've just got that little bit of line to get that out. Oh, muscles. Certainly give your arm a good workout. Okay, actually I will need to use them again, so I'll just leave them open and try not to make myself a mess. Okay, now this is where the fun will start. I'll leave that in there. So I'm going to grab my time-worn type. Got to get used to all these new names. And of course we have the two sides. So we've got the smoother side and we've got the pricklier side, I guess. And I've also got a little spritzer bottle of just plain water. So in my sample card, this one that I did here, I used the pricklier side. I think that's probably just the easiest way to describe it. I used that side. So for this example, I'm going to use the smoother side. So I'll just make sure that I can see colours. I have to keep tapping my screen to see colours for some reason. So I'm going to spritz. I'll do this off camera because otherwise I get water everywhere. So I am going to spritz my water. Now, depending on how much water you put on there, depends on what sort of reaction you're going to get with your, it's almost like a bleaching of water. So I'm just going to pop a little bit more on, bearing in mind that this is the smooth side. Okay, so then all you have to do is just lie your cardstock down, close your embossing folder, I turn it over so I can see what's going on, and then just press your embossing folder, the wet embossing part, over onto the cardstock, and you can actually start to see areas. So you can see up here where the bleaching has sort of started, and you can see it there and there. A couple of the colours here will start to run into each other down where it's orangey. So I like to just give it a press. You don't have to hold it on there for too long. And if you want to check what's going on, it'll stick to the top, but you can just gently peel that off and have a look and see what's going on. So I'm going to just bring this up and you can see what is happening to the colour and the reaction. So it's a really cool way of doing a background. It's not too messy, it doesn't take too long to dry, and you just have to clean that off up the top. This is the prickly side, so I'm just going to give that a spritz of water because that's where it's all oozed out. You could even lay down another piece of cardstock over the top of that and pick up whatever's colours. I didn't even think about that, and I'm not even organised. Maybe I've got a scrap somewhere. Hang on. This is just total scrap off my floor. You could even lay that down and just pick up the colour that's oozed out for a lighter background. Totally ad lib. You could do something with that. I'm sure that you could do something with that. Let's put that aside and let that dry too. So, and then I just clean that off with my rag. And there we go. Now, the best thing to do is to actually let that dry naturally. So it's got a bit of a curve in it at the moment because of all the water, but if you let it dry naturally, it will actually, you know, settle and go nice and flat again. You can speed it up if you wish, but if you can, it doesn't take too long to dry. You could prep the rest of your card while you're doing this, but I would just allow that to dry. But I have created a piece yesterday and it is already dry. So I'll just show you the difference between the two. So this one's using the smooth side and this one was using the prickly side. So it just gives a different look, which is great because it means more diversity, doesn't it? All right, I'm just gonna, I need this, I need my background here. I'm just gonna clear that off and then I can put them aside. I'm starting to get the sniffs. All right. Okie dokie. Now we're just going to add a little bit more. I like when I start playing with this style of card, I can't stop. I have to keep adding things to it. So I'm going to just bring in my crushed curry and my poppy parade, and I need my stamp cleaner. We're just going to add some extra little details. So using the crushed curry, and I should show you what I'm using, shouldn't I? I've pulled out the Quiet Meadow stamp set and the matching dies to go with it. So that the dots that are in there, I'm just going to add. They're really, 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 really subtle, okay? But I think they still just add that little bit extra. And then the Poppy Parade, I'm just going to add a few more dots up there. Wipe that off. And then I'm going to come in, I've got the text, because I thought, well, this probably, not that you can see the text in the Time Worn embossing folder. Now, I've got to make sure I'm not the right way. And no, I'm not. Okay, and then we're just going to put the text over the top as well. Just in a slightly different area. And also with the Poppy Parade up the top as well. Okay, I think it just adds and enhances it a little bit more. Okay, and this is the type of technique where, like Melissa was saying, you just get your size of your panel and you just play, and you know, because it's going to turn out differently every single time you play this. Now, I need some Memento Black, and I've forgotten to get it out, but I am lucky. My ink pads are directly behind me. Okay, so I'm using a sentiment from one of the new Celebration stamp set, which is the Delicate Dahlias. So I'm just using the Thank You Kindly image, the sentiment there. So, and this is why you definitely need to have your cardstock completely dry, because you want to be able to stamp your sentiment down and also your other bits of image, like your dots and your text and stuff. There we go. Nice. Woo, dropping things. Thankfully it was only the lid and not the ink pad. Okay, next I took the embossing die cutting. We've got it all, haven't we? I took the, here we go, that's what I'm looking for. The dies from the Quiet Meadows, and I think these are just called Meadow dies, yep. And you can use basically any of these. I've taken the long one and I've got two images of them, two shapes of the same, and I also cut out the half butterfly. So we've got a half butterfly here, we've got the full butterfly, we've got tiny little leaves. There's a lot going on in that set that we don't, you don't actually know until you start really having a look and a play. So I'm using Tombow, which I have to admit I don't really like this one, but we're going to play. Just let me line up and make sure I've got enough room. Yep, plenty of room. I don't usually get along quite well with this one, but I will just put down a little bit, just a few dots. Pick him up also gently. I'll just bring it up just a smidge higher. Whoops, and now I've got glue showing, which is why I don't really like it. I know it'll dry clear, but okay, so we'll just put that down. What I do when I'm playing with liquid glues is I just bring a block and I sit it on top and I let it catch while I'm prepping the next piece. And a little bit at the top. can hold on to the bottom. Okay, and then I'll just bring this one and I'll put it down a little bit. And I'll stick that on there again. I think I'm crooked, but that's okay. Oops. And then a little butterfly. I can't find it. Where's my original card? I've lost my original. There it is. See what I've done. Okay, and then all I did was turn it over and snip anything off that was overhanging. I always see these little bits on my mat and I think I've got ink on them, but then I realise that it's actually my background. Okay, and then I'm just going to adhere that to my card base, which is just a piece of black. Same measurements as I had in my card before, so 4 inches by 10 inches and then scored and folded at 5, so 4 by 5 inches. And then I'm just going to adhere this down. You could pop it up if you wanted to, but I sort of find because I've had water on it, I do prefer to put a lot more adhesive on it and then stick it down flat, just because of that little bit of a curl factor. I think if you put dimensionals on there, it might sort of continue to curl and buckle the card if it's not dry completely. Okay, and then finally I am using some of the same embellishments that have been used earlier. I think Wendy used them with her fish. So the silver and clear epoxy dots. Now I know Wendy took hers out completely, but I take mine out. I use the original packaging, but I take the whole folder, like the whole envelope thing out, and because I come that way, and I always turn them around and then put them back in the packaging that way. So that way when I open them up, I've got the little entry thing here. So that's how I always do it. I turn everything around, my dimensionals, everything gets turned around so that I can have easy access from the front. So, and I'm just going to use some of the dots as well. So we'll just pop a few. These ones are the silver ones, which I think are pretty groovy. Okay. So this one is a lot more intense in colour. The pricklier side has bleached a lot more of the colour out. We'll just bring in the other card because my card is finished. But you can see between the two of them that, you know, you've got such a different look. And this is the one that we just did this morning as well. With the one that I did yesterday, I sprayed lighter ink and I didn't have, I actually went back and put more water on it because I didn't have enough water on it and it didn't really bleach out properly. So this one, I actually put a fair bit more water on it this morning to make sure that that worked. So I think that has worked out really pretty. But the thing is, when you put more water on it and you go to lift your card off, that's where, you know how sometimes the water sort of pulls and drags. Sometimes you lose a bit of your pattern, which I'll show you in another card that's happened, but I think still it gives a really interesting background. And that is the piece that we got from the second one, which, you know, is great too. I think you could, you definitely make something nice and soft out of that. So you can almost get two out of the one, completely different. Okay, now I did finish off the inside of my card because we're working in black. So I did a layering of white and I just added my dots and I added my text in there as well. And then I realized that I'd actually made my card in centimeters, my colored panel in centimeters. So I trimmed off a tiny little bit of it to bring it back down to inches. And so I just stuck that extra strip that was in there. I just popped that on the side. So even if you wanted to make your panel, your white panel, a little bit wider, you could just trim it back and then just pop that 1/4 of an inch inside your card to get that one finished. So I'll bring them in. Now this was the first card that I actually made that I was going to demo, and then I thought, well, the colouring in would probably take me a little bit too long. So this one is the Poppy Parade as well, because I just love it because it's such a bold, solid colour. And I've used the bark embossing folder on that one, and I think I used the prickly side for that one as well. So it's only just picked up a few little bits of the bark area, so definitely have a play. And of course I use the Free as a Bird because I love Free as a Bird, and you definitely cannot go wrong with this type of card as well. And so I just stamped it, coloured it in, used a little bit of Balmy Blue in the background, a little bit of the twine from the that 5-pack that we have, and the tailor-made tags. So I love that as well. And then I thought, let's play with something completely different. Rather than have a really big panel, I've taken a smaller panel and I've used the checks from the Checks and Dot embossing folder, and I've just used the Pierced Blooms dies. I don't think I actually got the stamp set with that one. I think I just got the dies because I love the dies. And the colours in this one are Bermuda Bay and Granny Apple Green. So with the panel behind, with the checks, you can see how when I've pulled, because I had a fair bit of water on that one, when I've pulled the card off the embossing folder, some of the colours have bled into each other. So down the bottom here, where there's obviously been less water, you get the real check shape, but up here it's sort of like blended into each other and flattened out. You haven't quite got the check anymore, but I think it still gives a really nice background anyway. So you know, play, each one is going to be different. Obviously when you do the checks, both sides are going to be the same because one's up, one's down. The dots that I used in my last card, that would give a really different look as well, because you've got some that are raised, some that are sunk in. But definitely have a play. I think it's great to find things that have got a lot of texture in them. I'll bring this back. See how flat that is now? Because it's been drying naturally. It's actually come down nice and flat, and so has the white. I'll bring that in as well. So it's just an easy way to get a bit of background texture going on, and of course it's good to get a little bit inky and have some fun. So I think that's it with my cards now. I think I'm done. It is a really cool technique. I love it. I haven't done it for a long time. I played with it years ago and quite liked it. So it's very fun. So it's sort of almost like the water stamping, you know, when if you could even do that if you wanted to. I just played with embossing folders, but you can get your blended cardstock, stamp onto a pad of water, like just get some paper toweling or something and just fill it with water, stamp onto it, stamp onto your card, let it sit for a few minutes, take it off, and then you'll have the image of your stamp as well. So it's all very fun. So thank you very much for watching. I think Melissa is going to come back in shortly with her final farewell, but thank you very much. Don't forget, if you have a play and you make any of the techniques that we've made and showed you today, or the fun folds or the albums or anything that you've seen today, pop them into the correct album, and I think you've got a week to play, and then we'll be drawing some more winners so that we can see what you guys have come up with as well. So thanks very much, and have a great day. I'm going to go and watch everybody else's lives during the day so that I can play hopefully during the week. So thanks very much. See you later.